confines of Atlantic City, New Jersey. Wherever you may be watching or listening, I thank you as always. Like, share, and subscribe. It helps the channel. You can check the Blunt Talk Sports Podcast not only here on YouTube, but on Substack, Apple Podcasts, Patreon, Trovo, and as well as on Podbean. Happy to be here with you guys on this beautiful August 29th, 2025. This episode is going to be titled 32 Teams in 32 Days. We're still rolling with that segment. We have 3 more episodes within this segment before this segment is done, and then we are going to start the regular season and be back in the full swing of our episodes. However, college football is going on right now. Basketball season ain't really start. It's really just a dead time, the downtime before the regular season begins. Obviously, big news with the Micah Parsons trade. A lot of NFL news tidbits popping up, but definitely want to make sure you're getting plugged in with all your football information from the end of the preseason going into the regular season. So, as always, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Excuse me. Anyway, before we get started, though, I definitely want to make sure we give a couple shout outs to several friends of the show. If you guys watch the show avidly, you know that StubHub and Viagogo, the #1 and #2 leading ticket sellers and resellers in the world to live events, shows, and concerts. Those guys are friends of the show. We have some tickets that I think you guys might be interested in. Definitely, if you see here on the screen, there's college football tickets that are currently available. As I just stated, college football season in full swing. There's a game tonight. Definitely, you guys, the tickets on ESPN. Definitely make sure you check that out. Also, if you want to get immersed in the whole tailgating experience, there's tickets for that as well. NFL season tickets are available for the 2025-2026 season, coming up fast approaching. First game is next Thursday. Those tickets, Creative ID link is available that also you'll see here on the screen. Also, as we go a bit further, you got those NBA tickets. Yes, NBA season is fast approaching. Definitely make sure you hop on that and get those. As we go a bit further, we go look. We got some more stuff, and we also have here WNBA tickets are currently on sale right now too. Definitely make sure you get on that. NBA season tickets, like I just stated. Also, tennis tournament, U.S. Open now through September 7th in Flushing, New York. Definitely want to make sure you get out there for that, especially if you like watching tennis. We'll go a little bit further for my Viagogo subscribers. We're going to go get into what we got there for my people out there in the UK. Just give me 1 second here. Boom. So now out in the UK, a lot of tours and things still going on. Oasis reunion tour, definitely something for you guys to check out. Blackpink's Deadline World Tour. Also, you have the FIBA Eurobasket 2025 tour. Tickets basically being on sale right now through Viagogo. They started August 27th, which was 2 days ago. They end September 14th, so definitely make sure you plug in and get those tickets. You have the Formula One Dutch and Italian Grand Prix. Those tickets are also available currently right now, and some summer music festivals. So make sure you do get the most out of your summer before we all have to head back to work off holiday and get back into the full swing of things. So definitely check out StubHub and Viagogo for tickets to live events, shows, and concerts. Also, for my PlayStation gamers out there, my avid PlayStation gamers, don't be shy and definitely don't forget to check the description box within the link of this video. If you're looking for any accessories or anything to immerse or expand your PlayStation experience, definitely don't forget to check it out. Sony PlayStation, more than a game. All right, guys, so hopping into this episode, like I said, this episode will be titled 32 Teams in 32 Days. We're going to be talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Los Angeles Chargers. And yes, I corrected myself in my head. I almost said San Diego Chargers. Still fucks me up that they're Los Angeles, but it is what it is. Be that as it may, that's going to be the topic of discussion for the day. We're going to start first and foremost with the Pittsburgh Steelers. What a crazy fucking season for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I would use the term topsy-turvy, for those of you familiar with that term, meaning a lot of up and down, a lot of discombobulation, to say the least for Pittsburgh last year. That was essentially their season. They started off the season very hot. Justin Fields got off to a 4-2 start. Really felt like Justin Fields was going to be the guy that I was kind of kicking the doors down for last offseason, stating he needs to be the starter. He wound up getting the start, was in the 6 games, was 4-2. And then mysteriously, Mike Tomlin, who was just infatuated with Russell Wilson or guaranteed him, or maybe Russell Wilson had blackmailed Mike Tomlin. I don't fucking know. But for somehow he thought it was a good idea to bench him and to put Russell Wilson in there. Russell initially had good results, played well, but it potentially led to and proved to be a disaster. losing their last 5 games down the stretch and then getting beat, the dog shit beat out of them by the Ravens in the playoffs. So not a great year to end. Definitely left a foul taste in the mouth of a lot of Steelers fans. Ending 2024 and the end of the season 10-7. So definitely not where they wanted to be as far as their end of season results. Still another successful playoff season. Still Mike Tomlin showing his coaching prowess. There was a lot of speculation too if he was even going to be there this year. He stayed. Art Rooney II gave him a vote of confidence. So a lot of things that really went into favor for Mike Tomlin. He and Omar Khan were given the carte blanche to really carve the team out in their image. And man, have they fucking done that this offseason. They knew that they were going to go into this offseason making a lot of moves, making a lot of things to really make change. The fan base was clamoring for it, and that they did. Going into it, obviously, getting DK Metcalf, biggest acquisition I would say clearly was getting Aaron Rodgers. But getting Aaron Rodgers, DK Metcalf, signing him to a huge contract was major. Up until, Terry McLaurin just got his money. It was the biggest contract this offseason for a wide receiver. Also, they grabbed 2 former Eagles, to my dismay. But they grabbed Darius Slay and running back Kenneth Gainwell. And they also were able to re-sign safety Jawan Thornhill, who has also been a key player for them. So a lot of good things in the offseason positively for the Steelers. It didn't look that way for a while. It kind of seemed like maybe Aaron Rodgers might be a Minnesota Viking. So, just didn't really know how things were going to shape out. But he wound up being a Pittsburgh Steeler as expected, as spoken about, as confirmed with Mike Tomlin throughout the offseason. That's why these guys pretty much had that stoic steel reserve, knowing that they had Aaron Rodgers in the fold. So, be that as it may, now we have to discuss the Aaron Rodgers effect and what does this mean going for 2025. I believe Aaron Rodgers, if healthy, can help the Steelers team. Now, the question, obviously, the biggest thing is if healthy. He has not been healthy the past couple of years. Obviously, tearing his Achilles, tearing his Achilles a couple of years ago, 4 snaps into the regular season. Then last year, just taking a few months to really get his feet under him, being 40 years old, looked like a 40-year-old quarterback for, early portion of the season. Eventually started to look some semblance of himself, started to put it together. So, better offensive line in Pittsburgh. I do think that they're going to run the ball a little bit more than they did in New York. And I think that was a lot of the Aaron Rodgers offense in New York too. So being that that's not the case, being that, I'm drawing a blank with his name, the offensive coordinator, Arthur, oh my God, why am I drawing a blank on this guy's name right now? The offensive coordinator for the Steelers. But he's basically going to make sure that they're going to have a game plan that is diverse enough for Aaron Rodgers to run, but it's not going to take them and deviate them out of what their plan is offensively. Because I do think, I do think that it's going to be a situation where Arthur Smith is going to have to really detail the offense, curtail it as best as possible to make sure that, Aaron Rodgers is hitting on all cylinders and this offense is clicking, because there's going to be a shitload of expectations on Arthur Smith to make sure that this team really hits the ground running. He took a lot of heat last year. It was well documented. I reported on the show he did not want Russell Wilson to be his quarterback last year. He wanted to go with Justin Fields. That wasn't the case. Things didn't play out that way. I think they would have probably been able to play better ball control had they had Justin Fields last year in Pittsburgh, but water under the fucking bridge now. It's really frivolous to discuss it. Right now, Arthur Smith knows that the emphasis is going to be have this Steelers offense working at peak capacity, hit the ground running, because if not, if they go a long stretch or a good stretch of the season looking ineffective and incompetent, he's getting fired. And it's just going to add to more of the vitriolness that the Steelers fans have had in regards to him being the offensive coordinator, Mike Tomlin making him the choice and the pick and selection a couple years ago. So they got to make sure the running game is consistent. And they also got to make sure that if their running game isn't consistent, they have to make sure they're doing some other things, because I do feel that their running game is really going to be a key for the Pittsburgh Steelers. If their running game is hitting at all cylinders or playing just halfway decent, I think that this could really be a great opportunity for Pittsburgh to really strike and do some damage in the AFC North. The defense obviously must get better. The Steelers team needs to grow tremendously. The pass defense was atrocious a season ago. They were not anywhere where they needed to be or where they wanted to be. So it just puts them in a situation where Aaron Rodgers has to really, again, Arthur Smith and Aaron Rodgers, DK Metcalf, got to hit the ground running. We'll see now. Being that Aaron Rodgers is there, we'll see if that's going to be anything where maybe the Steelers feel like competently they're going to be in a situation where they're not going to have to worry about holding a team to maybe 17 points and their team scoring 21 and winning anymore. Because that football, in all honesty, that type of football is outdated. No one is winning games like that anymore. I love that type of football. It's gritty. It's classic NFL football. But the way the offenses are set up, the way the game is set up now, you can't competently do that every year and be a championship team. Make the playoffs? Yes. Win deep into January and February? No. So defense has to definitely be better. Their pass defense was atrocious last year. So definitely something they got to work on. Now, going into the draft, it was a lot of speculation the Steelers were going to take Shedeur Sanders. They didn't. They did speak to Shedeur, but they did not go and make that selection. They wound up making the more logical Steelers pick, which was defensive tackle Derek Harmon out of Oregon. Derek Harmon had a very heartfelt story. His mother was dying from cancer. She died, I believe, right after he was drafted. So, he pretty much needed some time to grieve and, be with his mother, and then the team had flew him out. So crazy and tragic situation. So my heart was already out there, grieving for the young man, pulling for him. Then he suffered a crazy injury in the last preseason game, which was really, really frightening and really had the Steelers thinking that, maybe an ACL was torn or something damaging that was going to put their first round pick out for the season. You could see, he was even seen crying on the cart being sent to the locker room. However, after tests had fully revealed, it seems that it was just a knee injury that was not any type of tear or any major damage. So thank God for that. Thank God he's not going to be out for a significant amount of time. I'm going to pull up some more information here, but it says he's expected to miss a month after injuring his knee. So sucks for the young man who's already had to overcome a lot of adversity, a lot of grief, to enter and start his NFL career. He's going to have to go through more adversity to really hit the field, to hit the ground running, to justify the selection and be the pick that the Pittsburgh Steelers hoped he would be. I know the Steelers are going to give him grace with this situation. They're not going to rush him back. They already have guys in place. They have Cam Hayward, happy with his contract or not. They have Cam Hayward there who's going to be there playing. So they have guys in place, but getting Derek Harmon back healthy at some point throughout the season will be key because, again, that defense fucking sucked against elite teams, and they are going to need to be better if Pittsburgh really wants to contend going into the rest of the season and potentially in January, February. But Derek Harmon, make no mistake, I think, because as I mentioned, Cam Hayward, I think they drafted him to be the Cam Hayward replacement. Derek Harmon has all the tools and prototype to be what you would think of a classic Steelers D lineman. So fits the bill, we shall see, but definitely a tragic situation. Kid has had to overcome a lot. I just hope that he gets back healthy soon and, gets to play at the level that he expects to play at, because if he does reach the level that they think he can, I think the Steelers defense has a chance to really be good this year. Now, going into the rankings from last year, the Steelers, not a shock here, offensively, middle of the pack, very garbage in a lot of key significant areas. First of all, 16th in points, not great, that's middle of the pack. 23rd in yards, almost bottom half of the league, definitely not great. And then to really put the cherry on top of this shit Sunday, 27th in passing yards. The Pittsburgh Steelers sucked offensively last year. They as bad as they were defensively in some key areas, they truly could not move the ball. Now, a lot of that, as I previously reported, Russell Wilson being unwilling to throw the ball in the middle of the field. It's either moon ball or dump it all to the flats. Not really an effective way to run an offense in 2025. So that played a lot of factors into it, which led to the whole quarrel between Wilson and Arthur Smith. So take some of that with a grain of salt. I think expect those numbers to be better this year. Also, if you're looking at the defensive rankings, 8th in points, which is great. 12th in yards, you'll definitely take that. But again, where I talked about the defense being atrocious, 25th in passing yards. You're in a passing league. It's great that if you can stop the run, but if you can stop the run in close games, fantastic. If you're trying to worry about stopping the run and this team is bombing it over your head and you're already down by 3 or 4 touchdowns and it's not halftime, we have a serious problem. And that's the problem that the Pittsburgh Steelers ran into. Whenever they ran into elite offenses, those elite offenses were able to move the ball effectively and at will against their defensive backs. That's why getting Jalen Ramsey was key. Having him back there with Joey Porter, it is going to be tremendous. The emphasis is going to primarily be on that defensive backfield and really Jalen Ramsey and Joey Porter Jr. to really lock up and solidify that back end. So that way teams won't be as willing to throw, which will tend and lend more to the strength of the Steelers linebackers and defensive line. So that's why all these moves for the Steelers were important this offseason. Remains to be seen if it'll all play out, but you go further into the stats, offensive rushing yards, Steelers were 11th. You expect the Steelers to be a top 10, top 15 rushing team. That's no shock there. And defensively, as I stated previously, they were good against the run. They were 6th against the run last year. So the Steelers ultimately know that the pressure is on, and they must improve, or there will be more of the same in Pittsburgh, which I don't think a lot of people are going to be happy if it's more of the same. So my best case scenario, worst case scenario for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Best case scenario, they win 11 games. They're a game better than what they were a year ago. They look a little bit better in certain areas. Aaron Rodgers is predominantly healthy throughout the season, and he looks like a semblance of himself. Worst case scenario, this team wins 8 or 9 games, misses the playoffs. Mike Tomlin's 500 again, but the Steelers fan base is pissed because they feel like it's still more of the same and nothing really has changed, even after we spent money and acquired, free agents. So a lot of pressure on Mike Tomlin and Omar Khan to get this done. We shall see how things play out, and if things play out the way that the Steelers and Mike Tomlin in the front office and Art Rooney, the owner, expect them to fall out and play out in 2025. Going a bit further now, we're going to talk about the Los Angeles Chargers. Go Chargers, go. So now, let's just say, for lack of better words, successful season last year. Definitely a successful season. The Chargers went into last year knowing that, hey, year prior we were 5-12. Dumpster fire. Gotta be way better than what the fuck we were the year prior. Jim Harbaugh was not going to allow them to play shitty. They were going to play Harbaugh ball. And I believe Harbaugh ball is alive and well in Los Angeles. They were not just expecting a new start, but looking to get more physical. And him bringing in Jesse Minter from Michigan, his defensive coordinator Jim Harbaugh's defensive coordinator at Michigan, Jesse Minter, and then bringing him to the NFL. I think that was a tremendous move. The Chargers just look like a team that they look finally like the team where we hoped they would be the past few seasons. The offense playing Harbaugh ball and the defense ending up number one overall ultimately led to what we would deem, and I would deem, ultimately a successful season for the Chargers. They unfortunately got dog walked by the Texans, primarily in large part to the turnovers by Justin Herbert, which were just fucking shitty in every aspect. I mean, he's just a guy where I don't know what's happened, but it just seems like playoff games that, whether it was a 27-0 debacle against Jacksonville or the playoff game last year against Houston, he's just got bad fucking mojo in these games. He goes into these games, I don't know if he's pressing or if his team's pressing or if he's just a little inaccurate, a little off on those days, whatever it is, he has looked like dog shit in those playoff games. So Justin Herbert did not really help his team out by turning the ball over 4 times. I believe they turned the ball over 6 times overall in that game. So it was just bad. It was just a bad game by the Los Angeles Chargers. Very bad way to end the season after so much hope and promise to end it. So heading into the offseason, you knew they were going to address a couple of things. First of all, they would have to tighten up that offensive line. I feel like the Chargers' offensive line has been an Achilles heel for them for the past couple of years. Getting Joe Alt last year was tremendous. Him and Rashawn Slater definitely locked up a lot for the Chargers going into last year and this year. Now Rashawn Slater getting injured, out for the season, that doesn't help. So you're going to have to kind of do a shuffle along the offensive line there. So be that as it may. They go out and sign a bunch of players like, Mekhi Becton, Tyler Conklin, tight end, formerly of the Jets, running back Najee Harris, and Mike Williams. Now, keep in mind, Mike Williams signs and then eventually retires, and then they bring back Keenan Allen. So all in all, it was just a very crazy situation about how it all played out. But got to give the Chargers credit. They definitely knew they needed to address some things. Now, Najee Harris had kind of like a freak accident with the 4th of July's firework accident. Don't know how all of that's going to work out. But Omarion Hampton definitely looks like he's going to play the part. Definitely looks like he's going to be a good running back for them. So we shall see. But, a bit of a weird offseason for the Los Angeles Chargers. Now, going into their rankings, into their stats. They had a season last year where I think we saw in a lot of different parallels where Harbaugh ball does resonate to winning, but the quarterback has to be exceptional in certain areas and make the necessary plays when needed for his philosophy to really truly work. If we're looking at the offensive ranking for the Los Angeles Chargers, they were 11th in points, 20th in yards. Not great, which means you probably were dealing with a lot of 3 and outs. It was either feast or famine, so that's never good. And then you're 19th in passing yards. You got Justin Herbert and you're 19th in passing yards. Now, granted, I know he was out a couple games due to injury, but you need better production than that. I mean, granted, I know the Eagles won the Super Bowl with Jalen Hurts not having that great of pass numbers last year, but we all know that in those moments, he was able to connect on those passes. Justin Herbert has not done that in one playoff game yet. So, got to be better there. Definitely got to be better offensively. Defensively, as I previously stated, Chargers were ranked number 1 defensively last year. They were 11th in yards and 7th in passing yards. So, Chargers defense is the heart and soul of this team. Make no mistake about it. They are what you would hang your hat on if you're a Chargers fan. And then obviously too, if you're looking at the rushing yards, you got 17th in rushing yards. So they're definitely going to need to run the ball a little bit better. They had J.K. Dobbins and a running back by committee thing, Kamani Vidal, kind of a bit, again, running back by committee. Having Omarion Hampton, having Kamani Vidal, having the Najee Harris, I believe that's a better running back stable than what they had a year ago. So I expect those numbers to go up. And the defensive rushing yards, something that was a slight Achilles heel for this team last year. They were 14th in rushing yards, defensive rushing yards. So you can run a bit on the Chargers, something that I think that they definitely will work on to improve this year if they want to have any shot, especially in that AFC West, that vaunted AFC West. So a lot of things really bearing down for the Chargers this year. Injury to Rashawn Slater, alterations to the offensive line, getting a running back in the draft, making some of the necessary moves, getting Lad McConkey some veteran help by bringing in Keenan Allen. The Chargers are trying to do some things on the fly to rectify them not hitting on some of these draft picks. So a lot of things could definitely fall, in a bad way for the Chargers if they continue to get injured. However, if we're talking, best case scenario, I do think that they're going to be a playoff team again. The question would ultimately be, can Justin Herbert take the next step to elevate his team and to at least win a playoff game this year? Because I think that's the biggest step. I know Harbaugh has talked recently about, the Super Bowl, that's the goal. And I think every team, even though the bad ones won't admit they're not really worried about the Super Bowl. They know they're not going, so they don't care. But you got about 8 teams every year, 8 to 10 teams every year that's like, they know they can win the championship. So Justin Herbert has to play better for this team to really be in position to compete. I really feel like he has really been the real albatross, the real kind of like lingering issue. It just seems like Harbaugh is doing a lot to try to motivate him to prove that he's the guy. If he can really elevate himself instead of kind of hitting the ceiling where he's been at the past 5 years, I truly feel that this team could really be elite in the AFC, let alone the AFC West. So, what does that mean as far as my predictions, best case, worst case scenario? Best case scenario, I have the Los Angeles Chargers at 12 wins. So, a little bit shocking. Yes, a little bit shocking. I know you're saying, wait, 12 wins? They won 11 games last year. Yes. Best case scenario, I see them being a game better, a game smarter, a game more efficient under Harbaugh. Worst case scenario, injuries included, you're looking at an 8 to 9 win team. So, Chargers are one of them teams too, a couple more injuries and you might be talking about them getting ready for next year's draft, but we shall see. Jim Harbaugh is definitely trying to convince his quarterback and his team it can be done. In the division that they in with, the Chiefs being there and the Broncos being there, there's going to be a lot of pressure on that AFC West, and there's going to be a lot of pressure on that Chargers team to kind of stem the tide of kind of the early season ailments and things that may ail them to really be in the hunt late in the year to really compete as they were a season ago. But that's going to do it for this episode, guys. As always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I love you guys for plugging in. Take care and enjoy the rest of your weekend.